Have you ever felt the sudden chill of realizing someone you trusted was never who they pretended to be? That moment when the mask slips and you see the shadow behind their smile? It's unsettling, almost paralyzing. You question yourself, you replay conversations, you wonder how long they've been hiding their true intentions. And deep down, a quiet fear whispers, what happens now that they know you see through them? This is where many people lose their power. They shrink back, they stay silent, hoping to avoid conflict. But that silence is exactly what gives manipulative people control. Evil thrives when good people doubt their own perception. Yet the truth is this, the very moment you recognize their game, you've already begun to take your power back. Awareness is not weakness. It is the first weapon. It is proof that your spirit is awake, your heart is alert, and your mind refuses to be fooled any longer. Yes, it feels heavy. The tension grows when someone realizes you see their manipulation. They become more dangerous, more unpredictable. They will try to confuse you, twist your words, even paint you as the problem. But listen carefully, that resistance is not a sign you should back down. It is proof that you are standing in a place of strength. They only fight harder when they feel their grip slipping. Your awareness is their greatest fear because truth cannot be unmasked once it is seen. You are not alone in this. Every person who has ever chosen to rise to break free from control has walked this same path. It is frightening, yes, but it is also liberating. The fear you feel is not a warning to retreat. It is a signal that transformation is happening inside you. Growth never feels comfortable. Courage never feels easy. But standing in your truth is what separates those who live enslaved by manipulation from those who finally breathe in freedom. So why should you stay with me until the very end? Because what you will hear is not just about them, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your strength, your clarity, your peace of mind. It's about recognizing the patterns of manipulation so clearly that no one can ever blindside you again. It's about protecting your energy, your purpose, your life from the hands of those who feed on fear and confusion. If you walk away now, you leave that knowledge on the table. But if you stay, if you lean in and absorb every word, you'll walk away with eyes that cannot be deceived again. You'll know the tactics, you'll recognize the signs, and most importantly, you'll have the inner fire to rise above them. This isn't just information, it's armor. And once you wear it, nothing and no one can strip it from you. So hold on, keep listening. What you're about to uncover could change the way you see every interaction from this day forward. And once you see, you can never be controlled in the same way again. This is the beginning of your freedom, and it starts right now. The moment you see through someone's mask, you step into a dangerous but powerful place. Because now the game changes. They sense it. They feel your eyes on them in a different way, sharper, unwilling to be fooled. And instead of retreating, they will often double down. This is when their behavior reveals itself most clearly. They will shift, they will scramble, they will try to regain control. But what you must remember is that these reactions are not signs of strength, they are signs of panic. The truth is shaking their foundation, and they will do anything to keep you from standing firm in it. The first weapon they often reach for is doubt. They want you to second guess yourself, to question your judgment, to believe that maybe you misread them. They will twist words, act innocent, even make you feel guilty for seeing what you saw. But pause for a moment and realize this. Your intuition is not lying to you. Your clarity is not an accident. You saw the mask slip because you were ready to see it. Evil does not reveal itself to weak minds. It shows itself to those strong enough to face it. And you are one of those people. Then comes the pressure. They will try to control the story, turn others against you, and isolate you in subtle or obvious ways. This can feel crushing because it preys on your deepest human need to belong and to be understood. But remember, isolation from false people is not a loss. It is a gift. Every step away from manipulation brings you closer to truth, to real connection, to peace. Sometimes the loneliness of leaving behind what is toxic is simply the empty space where strength and authenticity will grow. And yes, they may try to provoke fear. They may raise their voice, throw accusations, or make threats designed to shake your sense of safety. Fear is their sharpest blade because it strikes at the most primal part of you. But fear loses power the moment you refuse to bow to it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to stand tall in spite of it. You do not need to fight their chaos with chaos. You win by staying grounded, by holding your peace like an anchor in a storm. Every attempt they make to regain control is proof that you already disrupted their illusion. They cannot go back to who they were before you saw them, and you cannot go back to who you were before you knew the truth. That door is closed forever. This is your advantage. The more desperate their actions become, the more confirmation you receive that your eyes are open and your awareness is unshakable. Stay present in this truth. Their power depends on your confusion, but your power depends on your clarity. And clarity, once gained, cannot be taken away unless you surrender it. You do not need to prove yourself to them. You do not need to convince anyone else. You only need to stay rooted in what you know is real. That is where your strength lives. That is where your freedom grows. So when the storm rises, let it rise. Do not fear it, because storms are loud, violent, and messy, but they always pass. And when the air clears, the one thing still standing will be you, stronger, wiser, and untouchable. When someone realizes that you can see through their lies, they often resort to playing the victim. Suddenly, the person who once held power over you begins to paint themselves as the one who is misunderstood, mistreated, even betrayed. They will use pity as a weapon, hoping your compassion will blind you to the truth you've already discovered. This is one of the most manipulative tactics because it strikes at the part of you that wants to help, to heal, to forgive. But you must understand this clearly. Genuine victims do not fear the truth being exposed. Only manipulators pretend to be wounded when the mask comes off. Your empathy is a strength, but it becomes a weakness the moment it is exploited. This is why they reach for it, why they cling to it. If they can convince you to feel guilty for recognizing reality, then they regain the control you just took back. Do not let them twist your compassion into chains. True kindness does not mean tolerating deception. True love for others does not mean sacrificing your own dignity. Compassion without boundaries is not compassion at all. It is self-betrayal. When you refuse to fall for the performance, they may shift again. They may alternate between tears and anger, silence and manipulation, anything to keep you off balance. This roller coaster of emotion is designed to drain you, to confuse you, to make you desperate for peace at any cost. But the real cost is not found in standing your ground. The real cost comes when you give in and lose yourself. Stability will never be found by surrendering to chaos. Stability is found by holding firm to the truth you know, no matter how much noise surrounds you. And here is the deeper reality. Every time they attempt to manipulate, they are revealing more about themselves than about you. Their behavior becomes the evidence. Their actions become the proof. You don't have to argue or convince. All you need to do is watch carefully, because evil people expose themselves most clearly when they are afraid of being seen. Their desperation is the testimony that confirms your awareness was right all along. The temptation will always be to step back, to let it go, to pretend you didn't see what you saw. But that temptation only leads you back into chains. You cannot unsee the truth, and pretending you can is a betrayal to your own soul. The path of freedom requires the courage to stand, even when everything in you wants to retreat. It requires the willingness to sit in the discomfort of being misunderstood rather than choosing the false comfort of denial. There is no growth without discomfort. There is no transformation without tension. The very pressure you feel right now is shaping you into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone unshakable. The struggle is not here to destroy you. It is here to refine you. You are learning to rise above manipulation, to break free from the weight of fear, and to live with a clarity that no one can take away. So do not let the tears they manufacture, the guilt they project, or the confusion they create steal your progress. You are not cruel for protecting your boundaries. You are not unkind for standing in truth. You are not selfish for refusing to carry the burden of their lies any longer. You are free, and freedom demands courage. Every step you take in clarity is a step away from chains, and every chain broken is proof that your spirit was never meant to be controlled. Once their attempts to guilt you fail, they often turn to distortion. They begin to twist reality itself, rewriting events, reshaping conversations, reframing history to cast themselves in a favorable light. You may find them denying things you clearly remember, insisting on a version of events that leaves you questioning your own memory. This tactic is insidious because it does not attack your body, it attacks your mind. If they can make you doubt your perception of reality, they regain the upper hand without ever lifting a finger. This is called gaslighting, and it is one of the most destructive tools of manipulation. It is like standing in front of a mirror while someone slowly fogs the glass. At first, you see yourself clearly, but as the mist spreads, your reflection blurs, and soon you wonder if you ever saw what you thought you saw at all. The danger lies not in their lies, but in your willingness to believe them. Because once you surrender your clarity, they no longer need to control you. You begin to control yourself in alignment with their false reality. The key to breaking free is anchoring yourself in truth. Write it down if you must. Hold on to the facts. Remind yourself of what you felt, what you saw, what you heard, and do not let their distortion erase your memory. You are not crazy. You are not confused. You are awake. And staying awake requires a conscious choice to trust your perception, even when someone else tries to dismantle it. The more you hold on to truth, the more aggressive their distortion becomes. They may rally others to support their version, building a false chorus to drown out your voice. They may repeat the lie so many times that it begins to sound like truth. But repetition does not create reality. Reality remains unmoved by lies no matter how often they are spoken. Think of the sun. You can close the blinds, block it with your hands, or even tell yourself it doesn't exist, but the warmth on your skin proves it is there. Truth always carries evidence, even when denied. When you refuse to bend to their illusions, a shift happens inside you. You begin to recognize the strength of your own mind. You realize that resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about refusing to abandon clarity. You see that your awareness is not fragile, it is powerful. And once you choose to stand in that power, their attempts to rewrite reality lose their force. They can only control those willing to believe. The moment you stop believing, they lose access to your mind. This is the turning point where fear begins to fade and resolve begins to grow. Because now you understand that truth is not fragile, it is indestructible. Lies may be loud, but they are temporary. Manipulation may feel heavy, but it cannot crush a spirit anchored in reality. Your awareness is not a burden. It is your liberation. And every attempt to gaslight you is proof that you hold the one thing they cannot steal, clarity. So when they twist, when they distort, when they insist you are wrong, stand tall in your knowing. Do not waste your energy convincing them. Do not waste your spirit fighting illusions. Simply hold to what is real, because truth requires no defense. And once you learn to live from that place, no lie will ever have the power to control you again. When their distortions fail to shake you, they often escalate to one of the most dangerous weapons they have, division. If they cannot control your perception directly, they will attempt to control the perceptions of those around you. They will whisper lies into the ears of friends, coworkers, even family members. They will plant seeds of doubt about your character, your intentions, your stability. Their goal is simple. If they can isolate you, they can weaken you. If they can turn others against you, they can corner you into silence. This tactic is devastating because it preys on the human need for belonging. We are wired to seek connection, to be understood, to be accepted. So when the people you once trusted begin to look at you differently, when conversations grow colder, when trust feels broken, it cuts deeply. That pain is real, but it is also the trap. They want you so desperate to restore harmony that you will bend to their story, abandon your truth, and let them reclaim control. But there is a greater truth you must hold on to. Rejection by the wrong people is protection, not loss. When someone turns against you because of lies, they were never standing on a foundation of truth to begin with. When someone can be swayed by whispers, it means their loyalty was never rooted in clarity. And while it hurts, this exposure of false connections is a gift. It strips away illusion and reveals who truly belongs in your life. Division is their attempt to weaken you, but it can become the very thing that strengthens you. Because as the noise around you grows, you learn to stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for strength. You discover that your worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the unshakable truth of who you are. This is where resilience is born, not in the approval of a crowd, but in the quiet certainty that you will not betray yourself. When they spread lies, you do not need to chase after them, correcting every rumor, defending every accusation. That only feeds their power. Instead, stand in silence and let your consistency speak louder than their distortion. Time has a way of exposing what is false and elevating what is real. A storm of lies may rise quickly, but truth has endurance. It stands long after the noise has burned itself out. Yes, you may lose people in this process. You may feel the sting of betrayal, the ache of loneliness, the silence where once there was company. But remember this, emptiness is not always a void. It is space being cleared for something greater. By walking away from those who chose lies over loyalty, you create room for authentic connections, for relationships that cannot be shaken by whispers, for bonds that are built on truth. Division cannot destroy you if you understand what it really means. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awakening. It reveals who belongs and who was only pretending. It strips away the false so that the true can remain. And when you come through it, you will no longer crave shallow acceptance because you will have tasted the strength of standing firm in your truth. So let them divide. Let them whisper. Let them try. Because every move they make to isolate you only pushes you closer to your own unshakable power. You are not defined by who walks away. You are defined by the strength you carry when you stand alone. And in that strength, you become untouchable. When isolation no longer bends you, their attacks often turn more personal. They will search for your deepest insecurities, the places you doubt yourself, the wounds you try to hide. They will speak to those hidden fears with precision, like an arrow aimed at the softest part of your soul. They want to make you feel small, inadequate, powerless, because if they cannot control your environment, they will attempt to control your self-image. They know that if they can poison how you see yourself, they no longer need to chain you. You will chain yourself. This is why their words can cut so deeply. It is not because they are true, but because they echo the lies you may already fear inside. Their accusations are crafted to resonate with the voice of your inner critic. They sense the cracks in your confidence and press their weight into them. But hear this clearly, the pain you feel in those moments is not proof of weakness. It is proof that you are human. And what makes you human does not make you powerless. It makes you real. It makes you resilient. When someone uses your insecurities as weapons, it reveals more about their emptiness than about your worth. Strong people build others. Broken people break others. They are showing you their reflection, not yours. And the moment you recognize this, their insults lose their grip. You are not defined by the arrows they throw. You are defined by the strength with which you rise above them. This is the moment to speak truth into yourself louder than their lies. It is the moment to look inward and choose to believe in your growth, your potential, your resilience. Confidence is not born from never being attacked. It is born from knowing that no attack can rewrite your worth. Every time you stand in the face of their words without letting them shape you, you grow stronger. Every time you refuse to carry their projection as your identity, you take another step into freedom. Their insults may be sharp, but they are temporary. Your self-belief, once built, becomes permanent. And belief is not something they can take from you. It is something only you can give away. Do not hand them that power. Protect your mind as fiercely as you would protect your home. Guard your heart like the treasure is. Because the truth is, their attempts to tear you down are the clearest confirmation that you are rising higher than they can reach. The challenge is real, but so is your strength. You have survived storms before, and you will survive this one too. Every word meant to harm you is another opportunity to practice resilience. Every attempt to diminish you is another reminder to rise taller. And with each rise, you prove to yourself that their opinion is powerless compared to your truth. So do not let their attacks define you. Do not let their words live inside you. They may throw shadows, but shadows only exist because there is light. And that light is you, unbreakable, untouchable, unstoppable. The more they try to shrink you, the more proof you have that you are growing beyond their reach. Stand firm, rise higher, and let their attempts to wound you become the very fuel that strengthens your soul. When their words can no longer pierce you, they often shift toward controlling your actions. They may try to dictate where you go, who you see, what you say, or even what you believe. This is not always done with open threats. Sometimes it comes through subtle pressure, guilt, or manufactured obligations. They attempt to box you in, to limit your freedom, to make you feel as though every choice must pass through their approval. Control is their language, and the more they sense they are losing it, the tighter they try to grip. But control only works if you allow it. The moment you begin to reclaim your decisions, the moment you realize you do not need permission to live your life, the chains they built begin to crack. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because you can finally breathe. Terrifying because stepping into your freedom often means facing the storm they create when they realize you are no longer obeying their rules. Yet this storm is not a sign of failure. It is proof of progress. Resistance always grows fiercest just before the breakthrough. At their core, controlling people are afraid. They fear losing influence. They fear being exposed. They fear being irrelevant in your life. Their control is not a reflection of your weakness. It is a mirror of their insecurity. When you stop conforming to their expectations, you force them to confront the truth. They never had real power over you, only the illusion of it. And illusions cannot survive in the light of awareness. The courage to live freely begins with small steps. Saying no when you once said yes. Choosing silence instead of explaining yourself endlessly. Walking away from situations designed to trap you in obligation. Each act of freedom builds your strength, and with every boundary you enforce, you remind yourself that your life belongs to you. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the refusal to surrender your existence to the agenda of someone who seeks to control rather than love. You may feel fear as you take these steps, but fear is not a signal to retreat. It is a sign that you are stepping beyond their grip. Growth always feels uncomfortable because it stretches you into places you never stood before. But once you stand there, you realize the ground is solid, and the fear was only smoke designed to scare you away. The more you claim your choices, the less their tactics affect you. They may grow louder, angrier, more desperate, but desperation is not dominance. It is weakness exposed. And every time you choose freedom over fear, you weaken their hold even further. This is how transformation unfolds, not in one dramatic act of rebellion, but in a series of quiet, steady choices to live as your truest self. It is the courage to reclaim your time, your voice, your energy, your direction. And when you do, you realize something powerful. You were never as trapped as you thought. The walls were built on lies, and lies cannot withstand truth. So let them attempt to control. Let them push. Let them demand. Let them rage. None of it defines you. None of it can bind you, because the moment you choose freedom, you are already beyond their reach. And once you taste that freedom, there is no going back. You will never again live on your knees when you were born to stand tall. As control begins to slip through their fingers, they often resort to chaos. They thrive on confusion, on stirring conflict, on creating a whirlwind of noise that keeps you distracted and drained. They may provoke arguments over nothing, shift blame onto you, or create problems where none exist. The goal is simple. If your energy is consumed by constant fires, you have no strength left to stand in clarity. Chaos is not random. It is a strategy. And when you recognize this, you no longer need to be pulled into its trap. Chaos works because it triggers your natural desire to restore peace. You want resolution. You want calm. You want things to make sense. So when they manufacture disorder, you rush to fix it, to explain, to negotiate. But every time you step into their storm, you lose ground. You spend energy putting out flames they intentionally lit. You trade your peace for their performance. And this is how they regain power, not through truth, but through exhaustion. The answer is not to fight harder. The answer is to rise higher. Refuse to play the game. Refuse to be baited into endless arguments. Refuse to carry the chaos they create. The storm may rage, but you are not required to step into it. You are allowed to let their fire burn out on its own. And when you no longer respond, when you no longer give your energy to the disorder, the chaos loses its purpose. Without your participation, their storm collapses under its own weight. Staying calm in the midst of chaos is one of the greatest acts of power you can choose. It is not passivity, it is mastery. It is the recognition that your peace is too valuable to be traded for their noise. This requires discipline. It requires the strength to sit in silence when everything in you wants to defend yourself. It requires the patience to let time expose what words never could. But this discipline builds unshakable resilience, and resilience is what breaks the cycle of manipulation. They will hate your calm because it exposes their chaos. They will hate your silence because it reveals their noise. They will hate your peace because it highlights their emptiness. But understand this clearly, their hatred is not your problem. Their anger is not your responsibility. Their storm is not your home. You do not need to make sense of their disorder. You only need to anchor yourself in your truth. This is where true strength shines, not in shouting louder, but in standing taller. Not in winning arguments, but in refusing to enter them. Not in fighting fire with fire, but in being the steady ground that fire cannot consume. Chaos has no power over someone who refuses to engage. And the moment you stop feeding it, you begin to reclaim your life. You are not here to live in storms. You are not here to waste your energy on endless battles that were never meant to be won. You are here to rise above, to walk in clarity, to breathe in peace. And the higher you rise, the smaller their chaos becomes. Until one day, what once shook your soul becomes nothing more than background noise, powerless against the strength you have built within. When chaos no longer controls you, they often reach for the most deceptive tactic of all, false reconciliation. They will suddenly soften their tone, offer apologies, or speak words that sound like change. They may promise to do better, insist that they've reflected, even claim that your strength has inspired them. This shift can be disorienting because it taps into your deepest hope, that people can change, that love can heal, that the pain was not in vain. And this hope, as pure as it is, can become the very door they use to step back into your life. False reconciliation is dangerous because it wears the mask of peace. It disguises manipulation as humility. It plays to your desire for a resolution and tempts you to lower the boundaries you fought so hard to build. But real change is not words, it is action. Real growth is not a sudden performance when they are losing control. It is consistent behavior over time, even when no one is watching. If their so-called change only appears when they fear losing you, it is not transformation, it is strategy. The test is simple. Does their behavior align with their words, or do the same patterns continue once your guard is lowered? Because the truth is, people reveal who they are, not in moments of desperation, but in the quiet consistency of their everyday choices. Do not let temporary gestures undo the clarity you have gained. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. Compassion does not require reopening doors. You can release the weight of anger without stepping back into the chains of control. Your hope for change is a reflection of your goodness, not their sincerity. Do not confuse the purity of your heart with the reality of their intentions. Evil people know that your longing for harmony can be used as bait, and they will exploit it if you allow them. But you are wiser now. You have seen the cycle. You know the patterns. And wisdom means choosing truth over appearances, reality over fantasy, freedom over false peace. This does not mean your heart must harden. It means your heart must become wise. It means learning that love without boundaries is not love. It is surrender. It means recognizing that reconciliation without change is just another trap. And it means accepting that some people will never transform, no matter how much you wish they would. That acceptance is not bitterness. It is clarity. And clarity is what protects your soul. Every time you resist the pull of false reconciliation, you strengthen your trust in yourself. You prove that your boundaries are not negotiable, that your peace is not for sale, that your future is not tied to the illusions of the past. You rise above the manipulation and step fully into freedom. And that freedom is the reward you have been fighting for all along. So let them apologize. Let them promise. Let them say the words they think you want to hear. Listen if you choose, but watch closely. Because truth is not in what they say. It is in what they do when they believe you are no longer watching. Hold fast to your clarity. Protect your heart. And never forget that peace built on lies is not peace at all. It is only another prison. You were born for freedom, and freedom never comes by stepping back into the cage you just escaped. When false reconciliation fails, they often shift to outright intimidation. This is the stage where masks fall completely, and their desperation spills into aggression. They may raise their voice, slam doors, issue threats, or attempt to scare you into silence. Intimidation is their final attempt to maintain control when every other tactic has collapsed. It is raw, loud, and forceful, but beneath the surface it is nothing more than fear disguised as power. Intimidation preys on your natural instinct to avoid danger. Your body reacts, your pulse quickens, your mind races. They want you to believe that you are in danger if you do not comply, that your only path to safety is submission. Here's the truth. Their aggression is not a sign of strength. It is a confession of weakness. When manipulation fails, when control slips, when lies no longer hold power, all they have left is noise. And noise, no matter how loud, cannot break a spirit that stands firm in truth. Courage in these moments is not about feeling no fear. Courage is about choosing not to bow to it. You may feel the weight of their threats pressing against you, but fear does not have to dictate your response. You do not need to shout back. You do not need to meet their aggression with aggression. True strength lies in calm defiance, in refusing to be shaken, and standing steady while the storm rages around you. The most dangerous illusion they create is that you are powerless, but you are not. You hold the power of choice, the power of awareness, the power of boundaries. Their intimidation is designed to make you forget this. But remember, the louder they become, the clearer it is that they know they are losing. The storm is not proof of their dominance. It is proof of their decline. And even if their threats carry consequences, even if they attempt to hurt your reputation, your relationships, or your peace, those consequences cannot outlast truth. Lies burn quickly, but they also burn out quickly. Fear strikes fast, but it cannot endure. What endures is clarity. What endures is resilience. What endures is the quiet strength of a soul that refuses to bow. Standing firm against intimidation reshapes you. It teaches you that you are stronger than you ever believed. It shows you that fear, when faced, begins to lose its hold. And once you realize that no threat can control your spirit, you become unshakable. Intimidation thrives on your reaction. When you refuse to give it, their weapon turns to dust in their hands. You will feel the pressure. Yes, you will feel the fear, but you will also feel the fire rising within you, the fire of knowing you are no longer controlled. And that fire will carry you through, stronger than the storm, brighter than the shadow, freer than the chains they tried to place upon you. So let their voice rise. Let their threats echo, let their storm rage, because it is not you who should be afraid, it is them. They fear the one thing they cannot stop, your awakening. And once you are awake, no intimidation, no aggression, no threat will ever again have the power to put you back to sleep. When intimidation no longer bends you, they often retreat into silence. This silence is not peace, it is punishment. They will draw their attention, their words, their presence, hoping the emptiness will pull you back under their control. This is the silent treatment, and it is meant to make you feel invisible, unworthy, abandoned. It attacks the human need for connection, playing on the fear that without their approval, you are nothing. But this silence, though it feels cold, is actually one of the clearest revelations of your strength, because only when someone loses influence do they resort to withholding themselves. The silent treatment is designed to make you chase, to make you explain, to make you beg for their acknowledgement. But do not miss the truth. If someone withholds love as punishment, it was never love at all. Real love does not disappear when truth is spoken. Real love does not vanish when boundaries are set. Real love does not turn into ice when control is lost. What you are experiencing in their silence is not love withdrawn. It is manipulation revealed. This is your opportunity to reclaim what was always yours, your self-worth. The silence feels painful because it mirrors the places inside you where you doubt your own value. But the lesson here is powerful. You do not need their voice to validate your existence. You do not need their presence to confirm your importance. Your worth was never tied to their acknowledgement. It has always been inherent, unshakable, eternal. Instead of fearing the silence, embrace it. Let it become a space where you hear your own voice again, where you rediscover your inner strength, where you connect with the truth that was buried under their noise. Their withdrawal does not diminish you. It frees you. It creates room for peace, for clarity, for the kind of stillness where healing begins. They believe their absence will weaken you, but it will only strengthen you. Because once you learn to thrive without their validation, you become untouchable. You realize that your joy does not depend on their attention. Your confidence does not depend on their approval. Your future does not depend on their presence. And when you no longer chase what they withhold, they lose the last thread of control. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels lonely. But loneliness is not the same as loss. Loneliness is the space where you meet yourself again, where you rebuild, where you rise. Do not run from it. Do not fear it. Walk through it with courage, and you will emerge stronger than ever before. The silent treatment only has power when you let it define you. The moment you decide that their silence does not diminish your worth, it becomes powerless. It becomes nothing more than empty space, a space you can now fill with truth, with growth, with freedom. So do not chase. Do not beg. Do not break yourself to win back what was never real. Stand tall in the silence. Breathe in the stillness. And let it remind you of the one truth they never wanted you to know. You do not need them to be whole. You were whole all along. Silence eventually loses its grip when you refuse to chase it. And that is when they may try one final tactic. Desperation disguised as urgency. They will create false crises, sudden emergencies, dramatic events designed to pull you back into their orbit. They may claim they cannot survive without you, that they are falling apart, that you are the only one who can save them. This is not vulnerability. It is manipulation cloaked in chaos. Their goal is to reignite your empathy, to make you feel responsible for their survival, to bind you once again through fear and obligation. This is one of the most powerful traps because it strikes at the very core of your humanity. You want to help, you want to heal, you want to believe your presence can bring peace. But the hard truth is this: you cannot heal what refuses to change. You cannot save someone who thrives on keeping you broken. You cannot carry the weight of someone who builds their strength by draining yours. Their crisis is not yours to solve, and their collapse is not proof of your responsibility. It is proof that they never stood on their own to begin with. What you must remember is that love does not mean self-destruction. Compassion does not mean sacrificing your soul. True care lifts both people higher. It does not bury one so the other can stand taller. If being in their life requires you to constantly rescue them from the consequences of their own choices, that is not love. That is bondage. And bondage, no matter how it is dressed up, will always strip you of your freedom, your joy, and your peace. Desperation is loud, but clarity is quiet. In the noise of their urgency, you must anchor yourself in truth. Ask yourself, is this a genuine call for change or just another cycle designed to pull me back in? Look not at the words, but at the patterns, because patterns never lie. If every crisis leads back to the same manipulation, then you already know the answer. And once you know, you cannot unknow. Choosing not to rescue them does not make you cold. It makes you wise. It does not mean you lack compassion. It means you have finally learned the difference between compassion and control. You are not abandoning them. You are refusing to abandon yourself. And this is the deepest form of courage, to let go of what drains you even when every part of you aches to hold on. They will call it selfishness, but it is not. It is survival. It is self-respect. It is the recognition that you were not created to be someone else's lifeline while your own spirit drowns. You were not born to be chained to endless cycles of crisis. You were born for freedom, for clarity, for peace. And that peace only comes when you choose yourself over their manipulation. So when the urgency comes, when the crisis arrives, when the cries for rescue echo, pause, breathe, remember what is true. Their chaos is not your calling. Their desperation is not your duty. You are free to walk away, free to stand tall, free to live in peace. And the moment you choose that freedom, you step fully into the life they tried so hard to keep from you. When their desperation no longer binds you, when their crises no longer hold you hostage, there is often only one weapon left in their hands: smearing your name. They may turn to others, spreading lies, twisting truths, painting you as the villain in the story you fought so hard to survive. It feels like betrayal layered on top of betrayal, as though the damage done in private was not enough, and now they must attack you in the eyes of others. This is their final attempt to control the narrative, to reclaim the power they lost when you broke free. Being misunderstood, being misrepresented can cut deeply. Humans are wired to seek belonging, to value reputation, to care about how others see us, and they know this. That is why they target it. They want you to feel isolated, ashamed, doubted. They want you to question yourself again, to wonder if maybe you are the problem, to be so consumed with defending your name that you forget the freedom you just claimed. But this tactic, like all the others, reveals more about them than it does about you, because only those who fear truth must rely on lies. Only those who are losing grip must weaponize the opinions of others. The truth about smears is this: they cannot last. Lies require constant energy to maintain, constant storytelling to keep alive, constant manipulation to survive. But truth is different. Truth is steady. Truth does not need defense. It simply is. And though lies may spread quickly, they burn themselves out while truth remains unshaken and unbroken. What matters most is not whether others believe the lies in the short term, but whether you believe them in your own heart. Your power lies in refusing to let their smear campaign define you. You do not need to fight every rumor. You do not need to chase every false word. You do not need to spend your life proving your worth to people who only know you through the lens of someone else's manipulation. What you need is to stand tall in who you are, to let your character speak louder than their accusations, to let your life become evidence of the truth they tried to bury. When you carry yourself with integrity, when you keep walking in honesty, when you live free of their control, eventually the contrast becomes undeniable. Others will see it. Time has a way of exposing what lies cannot cover forever. And even if some never see, even if some always believe the worst, your worth does not shrink because your worth was never dependent on public opinion. It was never in their hands to begin with. The greatest revenge against lies is not more noise, it is peace. It is the quiet confidence of a soul unshaken, the unmovable strength of a life that refuses to bow to slander. The smear campaign may feel like fire, but fire refines. It tests you, yes, but it also proves you. It shows you that even when your name is dragged, even when your story is twisted, even when your reputation is attacked, you remain stronger, clearer, freer. So let them speak, let them twist, let them try. None of it can erase the truth that you now live. None of it can undo the strength you have built. None of it can take away the freedom you have chosen. Their lies are fleeting, but your truth is eternal. And in the end, it is the truth that always wins. When lies fail to break you, when smears lose their sting, something remarkable begins to happen. You step into a level of freedom they never imagined you could reach. Because freedom is not only the absence of their control, it is the presence of your strength. It is the discovery that even after all the tactics, all the games, all the attempts to destroy your spirit, you are still here, still breathing, still rising. And that realization is where transformation truly begins. The moment you see yourself standing tall in the ruins of their attempts, you recognize something profound. They never held the power you thought they did. They only had what you gave them. Every lie, every silence, every threat was designed to convince you that your strength was smaller than their control. But now, with clarity in your hands, you see the truth. The power was always within you. And once you know that, nothing can ever take it away again. This awakening shifts everything. You no longer walk through life trying to avoid the darkness because you know the light inside you is greater. You no longer shrink yourself to keep others comfortable because you have tasted the cost of silence and you will never pay it again. You no longer chase false love because you understand that real love does not demand your destruction. You carry yourself differently, not because the world has changed, but because you have. And this change radiates. Others see it. They may not know your full story, but they feel the weight of your presence, the calm in your voice, the strength in your eyes. They sense that you have walked through fire and emerged unburned. You become a living example of resilience, a quiet force that inspires without trying, a reminder that no darkness, no manipulation, no cruelty can extinguish a soul that chooses to rise. The greatest victory is not proving them wrong. It is proving yourself right. It is proving that you are always capable of more than you imagine, that you could endure the pain, break the chains, and step into a life defined not by fear, but by freedom. That is the ultimate transformation. And it is not just for you. It is for every person you will touch, every soul you will inspire, every life that will be lifted because you chose not to bow. The truth is, evil people never win. They may win moments. They may win battles. They may win the noise, but they never win the soul. Because the soul that awakens, the soul that chooses truth, the soul that refuses to surrender, always finds a way to rise. That is you. You are not broken. You are not defeated. You are not defined by what they tried to do to you. You are defined by what you chose to do in response, and what you chose was strength. What you chose was clarity. What you chose was freedom. That choice will carry you forward into every chapter of your life. That choice will keep you standing tall when storms return. That choice will light the way for others still trapped in the shadows. This is the moment you realize that nothing can stop you now. Not lies, not silence, not fear, not smear, nothing. Because you are awake, you are free, and no one can take that away from you again.